Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about how to properly document your assembly. So in a prior video, I went ahead and I took these two pieces, which I created over here, and I assembled them together into one item. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over to these buttons here, and I'm going to go to Exploded View, and then I'm going to click Add Exploded View. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a piece and drag it up. We'll see how far we should go. That's probably pretty good. I like to make it kind of even numbers for our measuring system here. So I'm going to do 1.5. And then I'll just go ahead and hit the green check mark. And what that did is it created a different step. Now I can move this to multiple directions. So if I want to move it back, I could. I could move the base if I wanted to. If I had more than just two parts, I would obviously start moving them as well. So all sorts of different options. When you're done, just click done. It'll go back together, but as you can see, it doesn't get rid of your work. It just kind of hides it there. So I can go ahead and click that button again, and it'll make that menu go away. And the next few things I want to change is I want to make sure that we have our material for each item listed, because that'll be important when we do a parts list later. I also want to change the names of these. I don't want them to show up as Part Studio 1 and Part Studio 2. So I'm going to go into each part. So I'll start with Part Studio 1. And I'm going to go down here where it says my parts, and I'm going to right click on Part 1 and go to Properties. And I'm going to change the name to Base. And then I'll click Save. And then I'm also going to right click and go to Assign Material. And we're going to do a wood. So let's type wood. Let's see what we got. We'll go with basswood. Okay, and I'll hit the green check mark. Now I just told Onshape that this is called base and the material is called basswood. So I'm going to go over to Part Studio 2 and we're going to change the same thing. So I'll do it in opposite order. So I'll assign the material. I'll type bass. And then we'll go ahead and change the name. You can also do rename. So I'll type that there just to show you. We'll call this flag. So now both of my pieces are considered basswood and they are named flag and base. So now I think we have everything set to start our documentation. So I'm going to click the plus here and click create drawing. And then I'm going to go with ANSI A-inch. It's what you should go with as well if you're in one of my classes. And now we'll start bringing in pieces. Now, when you're doing a working drawing with multiple parts and an assembly, drawings that have to do with your assembly should always go first in the order of drawing sheets. And then behind it have your part drawings. So what I like to start with is I like to start with the exploded view. So I'm going to go over to assemblies and then click on assembly 1. And then I'm going to change my view orientation to isometric. And then I'm going to change explode/position from default to explode 1. Now, so I'm going to place it. It doesn't honestly matter where you place it on the drawing sheet, just kind of what looks good. I know there's rules for other drawing sheets, but for this, not so much. So I'm going to right click on it now, and I'm going to show shaded view. Because it is an isometric, we should show it shaded. And then we're going to add a couple things. So the next thing I'm going to add is called a BOM table. I will most likely often refer to this as a parts list. That's what other programs call it as well. Some will call it BOM. BOM stands for Bill of Materials. So basically a more complicated way of saying parts list. So I'm going to click. And basically it'll give you kind of this box that hooks to your mouse. You can change where your mouse is because typically you put it in a corner. So like if I wanted to put it in the lower left corner, I would click on this one. So my mouse is now hooked to the lower left of the box. It just kind of makes orientation easier. But I'm actually going to do the upper right, and you can place it whatever corner you like. So like I said, this is kind of whatever fits. And you'll notice when you place it, it has part number and description. We're actually going to change those columns. So to change those, I'm actually going to hop back over to assembly. And I'm going to go to this button here. It's above where we had exploded view, and I'm going to go to BOM table. And this is where we can mess with our columns. So I'm going to actually right click and remove the part number and description columns. And then I'm going to click on Add Column, and we're going to do Name and Material. And that'll add in the name of our parts and what they're made out of. And that saves you from later having to add what the material is on your actual drawing sheet. So I think in the end, it saves some time. So I can get rid of that, and all I did was I clicked the BOM table button again. Sorry if you didn't catch that. And I'm going to hop back over to my drawing. And now I'm going to click Update. You'll notice nothing's changed yet. So I'm going to click the Update button. And now it's updated to have the name and the material. And if you need to save a little space, you can adjust the columns. It works like Excel, so you can click and drag these lines and move them in and out. If you want to just leave them as is, that's fine as well. But just in case you need to save that little bit of space, you can move them in and they will adjust in size. Now the next thing we want to add is our balloons. And I believe, yes, this program calls them callouts. Again, you'll hear me reference to them as balloons, but it is the button called callout. It is near the BOM button. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm just going to go over to one of the edges of my piece, and I'll zoom in so you can see. And I'll bring it out. Now you'll notice it automatically pops up with the number 2, but you may be thinking, well, why? Because that is the first click I made. That is because it is automatically set to match with the BOM table. So item number 2 is the flag. So that does some of the work for you. And then I'm going to go down to the base, and it should show up as item 1. Yep. And then I'll place my balloon again. The trick with balloons, all you do is you click on an edge, move away, kind of away from your exploded view. As your exploded views get more complicated, it might be a little tougher on how to place stuff, but basically you don't want it crossing over other pieces if you can avoid it. And with a proper exploded view, your stuff should be far enough apart that you can fit balloons in there. So it's something you kind of you get the knack of as you use it. Once you have all your balloons placed, and I should point out, if you do have multiples of the same part, you should label those as well. So for instance, if I had four of the same flag on this base, I would have to label all 4 flags. Okay, so just be aware of that as well. So I'll hit the green check mark here, and now we have our first drawing sheet. So I'm going to move on to our second one. Now with this, you shouldn't make a new drawing tab. You should go over to this button here, and it shows your drawing sheets. And you should click this plus. And what it'll do is it'll make a second drawing sheet. You'll see it says 2 of 2. And this will add it to the same set of drawings. And it'll make it easier later for turning stuff in. So for my second drawing sheet, I'm going to bring in my assembly again, but I'm going to bring it in just like you would do a multi-view drawing. Okay, so I'm going to place my front view. And then I'll do my top. And then I'll do my right side. And then I'll do my isometric. Okay, now when you're doing a drawing sheet like this for your assembly, typically you shouldn't show hidden lines, sorry. Having a tough time there. I am going to do my shaded view and my isometric, but with hidden lines, you don't really need to show them. The whole point of doing a multi-view of your assembly is to show where something is located. We're going to do a separate drawing sheet for each part. So basically all we have to do is show how this flag is located on the base. So I'm going to go ahead and do a dimension. And let me see, the easiest place to put it probably, we'll do here to here to show it's 0.5 in. And then we can do another one from here to here. Oh, my mistake. I think I clicked too soon. I think I accidentally got rid of my view too. There we go. So here to here. Okay, and all this indicates is that our flag is 0.5 inch from each of those edges. And that's all we really need to show for dimensions on that. Obviously, as you get into more complicated assemblies, you may have more dimensions to show. But again, your dimensions for your assembly should just be location dimensions. Now, if this were right up against this edge, I wouldn't have to do a dimension to show that, because it would obviously be seen that it's right up against it. So again, it's just meant to show how your item is located as opposed to another. So I'm going to click my wrench here, and I'm actually going to uncheck length trailing zeros. So that way it just says 0.5 and not 0.500. Now we're going to add our next two drawing sheets. So I'm going to add 1 and 2. So we got sheet 3 and 4. And this is where we're going to do our part drawing. So I'm going to click insert. And I'm going to switch. I'm going to choose insert again. And I'm just going to do Part Studio 1 and grab the base. And then again, we'll do our front, top, and right side views. Okay, simple enough. And then we'll go to sheet 4 and we'll bring in the flag. So now we have drawing sheets for each of our parts. And I can go through here and look. And then we have a drawing sheet of our assembly, and then we have an exploded view of our assembly. Now, this is where you should start labeling some things. So for instance, in here, I'm actually going to add a note because we should start talking about joinery and how to add things together. So I'm going to put all parts adhered with wood glue. So that indicates how these parts are going to go together in the real world. And I'm going to extend this out so that way it fits better. There we go. And then I'm actually going to add a label to my drawing sheet. So I'm going to name it down here. And all I did was double click to get that. I'm going to call this explosion. And then the center piece here, I'm going to add what this is called. So we'll call this flag holder. Works for me. And then I actually like to delete boxes above and below since my title's in there. And then we'll go through our drawing sheets and label those as well. So all I'm going to do is where it says drawing number, I'm just going to call it what it is. So I'm just going to say assembly. And then this is where I would just name the parts. Base. And then sheet 4. Oh, clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. And flag. And the reason I do that is if you were to hand this off to someone and have them build the entire thing, they can look at your sheet 1 and say, oh, the flag is here and it attaches onto here thanks to my assembly drawing sheet and it has 1/2 inch from each side. But now I need to know how to make the flag, so I can now reference to drawing sheet 4 and say, oh, this is the flag. Now it is pretty obvious by the shape as well, but as you start creating more intricate parts and some of your parts have slight differences to them, this kind of saves a designer from having to reference back to you, or a creator having to reference back to you as the designer. So now we have all our drawing sheets made, we have all our pieces labeled, everything we need. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to convert this to a PDF for submission. So I'm going to right click where it says drawing 1 and I'm going to go to export and then we'll name this, I'll just call it solid assembly. And you can name it whatever your file system is. And format's PDF and then just click export. And it should convert. Give it a moment here. So now you have one PDF with all your drawing sheets, and that's why you do it all in the same tab, so that you have them all in one nice file. So you only have to turn in one thing instead of multiple sheets, and it saves you some steps in the long run. Okay, so that's how you do a documentation. I do hope this really helped you, and you'll be able to use this in the future. So thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day.